In this video, I'll show you how to add enchantment and decoration by using watercolor. In this first part, we're going to paint the stem, which is a pretty easy process. You're going to use a small brush, and then you'll take just slightly wet paint. You don't want it over wet or it will spill outside of your white line. And then you just simply begin to paint. I like to start with a little intense color, and then I use water to drag the color out so that I have less intense and more intense places within my line. You can also paint the stem a different color in addition. So in this one, for instance, I started with purple and now I'm adding orange. And you do the process the same way. Add in a little intense color, then add just a tiny amount of water and pull the color out. You just continue adding water and color until you paint your entire stem. In this next part, we'll be adding more watercolor on top of what we already have on our feather. It's a process called glazing. One of the most beautiful things about watercolor is the transparency. So you want that bottom color to show through this top color that you're going to apply. To achieve that, you'll want to make sure that the color you're applying on top has been watered down a bit. You don't want it really, really watery, but you want it a little slightly less intense than the color that's on the bottom. Once you get the color on your brush, then you can just start painting. Here I'm just adding stripes, but let your imagination go. You can do circles, dots, anything you can think of. The thing to remember when you're glazing is to get in and get out. So you don't want to mess around too much with your brush strokes or to overwork anything, because you'll start to disrupt the bottom layer of watercolor that has already dried. Remember the sectioned feather that we painted? Here I'm going to add different techniques to the bottom and top sections. On the top part of the feather, I decide just to add stripes. I'm using here a slightly watered down version of the blue that I used for the feather. The rules of mud definitely apply when you're doing glazing. So remember that whatever your bottom color is, when you add that top color, the bottom will show through. So if you use a purple on top of an orange or vice versa, you're probably going to get a muddy color. But then again, honestly, sometimes I like to play in the mud. Don't let the fear of choosing the wrong color deter you from playing and making something wonderful. More than anything, you're going to learn something. On the bottom section, I decide to add dots. It's one of my favorite things to do. Here, I'm just once again using a watered down version of the blue. Once I've added all my dots, I then let it dry. Then you can come back with a white paint pen and add just a splash of white right on top of your dots.